Independence Day Resurgence. Independence Day 2. I really genuinely never thought we were ever going to get a sequel to Independence Day. 20 years, 2 decades after the first one. And on this edition of Geekdom Movie Talk, I'm going to talk about it. I want to get everybody's thoughts, of course, in the comment section. But before we go to all that, let me introduce my guest. You've heard him before from Force Perspective Movie Show. Please welcome back Sportsguy, aka Mark. Hello, Mark.
What's up, man? Glad to be here.
Now, you are a huge fan of Independence Day. I remember about a couple of years ago you did a riff track to it, and I was gonna join you on that, but I think something came up where I couldn't do it. Let me ask you a question about Independence Day 1, because I think Independence Day is like the one apology movie of Roland Emmerich's career, because Roland Emmerich kind of has a career of making like these, overly produced, poorly written disaster movies. That's pretty much what his career is all about. Eye of the Storm, Godzilla 98, Day After Tomorrow, 2012, yeah. That's what he does. That's all he does, like in Terminator. He's got a few good movies, okay? He does have a handful of good movies, and I think Independence Day is the one that stands out the most as being a good movie. What is it about Independence Day Part 1 that you think has made it such a cult classic? I mean, it gets made fun of sometimes by movie snobs, but it's a fun freaking movie.
Absolutely, and actually, we talked about this on our big summer preview show, which is episode 77. Up
you
on
go
the
listen
site.
to that on geekdom101.com. I'll put the link down below.
Absolutely, and we actually got into discussion. Our mutual friend Brandon Draven talked about how that film can only work in the 90s, which is why he had some reservations about this sequel.
Yes,
And
a 90s story, yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I think just taking the movie just on its surface, it really is. It could only work in the 90s. Just the cheesy dialogue, the special effects. It's just something about this movie that, like, there's a corniness to it, obviously, but it's just so endearing. It has a personality, it has a soul, and you just can't help but get sucked in by it.
I mean, the original film, obviously, you had Will Smith at the height of his popularity. Without question, Will Smith from like 97 to about 2003 was the biggest actor in Hollywood. You had Jeff Goldblum, who's a staple of the 80s and 90s. I mean, what has he done in the 2000s, unfortunately? He was hot off of freaking Jurassic Park and a few other movies. You had Bill Pullman, our boy Billy Pullman, Vivica A. Fox, who's still hot. And, of course, Brent Spiner, who is Data in Star Trek Next Generation, another huge 90s show, even though it started in the late 80s. So the movie, Draven's right. It encompasses everything about the 90s, but it was always kind of an endearing film. And one thing I do want to talk about, Mark, is that a lot of people don't remember, and I'm not sure if you even remember this, and if you do, you probably remember some of it, but the 90s had a resurgence of UFO/alien interest in the general population. We saw a lot of UFO stuff kind of in the 60s and 70s. Then it took a break throughout most of the 80s, but I remember vividly in the 90s, we saw tons of renewed interest in this. Unsolved Mysteries covered it. Sightings covered it. There were all kinds of UPN specials, including that alien abduction creepy-ass movie that was fake and everybody thought it was real. One day we'll talk about that movie, bro, because that needs to be talked about. This movie was subsequently followed by Men in Black. So there was a renewed interest in, like, extraterrestrial stuff. So this movie came around at the right time.
And don't forget our boy Timmy Burton with Mars Attacks around this time also.
Right around this time. Great, fucking fantastic. You're right. Absolutely. Everything was about aliens in 96, 97, 98. Are you sensing that now? Because I feel like now in 2016, it's more about zombies and aliens and shit. Zombies and vampires. Or actually, you know what? The vampire thing kind of died a couple years ago, but the zombie craze is still a little bit higher than it was before. What do you think? Do you think that the world is kind of in that place again, or do you think this movie's coming at the wrong time?
Well, you might be onto something, because think about the 90s too, because like the late 90s, you had all those movies, and plus you had the X-Files, which is a big
huge
show back then.
You're bringing up some good shit, yeah.
And now I think the X-Files made like a nice little comeback this year. Didn't earlier, like in January, they had like a nice little like mini run, a couple of episodes. So you have the X-Files coming back. You have Independence Day 2 Resurgence coming out this summer, so there might be something to maybe a renewed interest in the whole alien thing.
It could be. I mean, now the thing about the film is the first trailer was kind of whatever. Second trailer, I think, was a lot better. I'm happy to see Jeff Goldblum back and Bill Pullman. The movie actually takes place 20 years after the original one, and it's coming out 20 years, so it makes sense. It's like with Force Awakens. It's 30 years after Return of the Jedi and came out, 20 some, almost 30 years? Not like 32 or so years. So it fits. It makes sense.
Right.
No Will Smith in this movie. And from what I remember Will Smith commented years ago, because the Independence Day 2 movie has been teased for years. We've talking about this movie. Roland Emmerich has been wanting to do a sequel for years. Will Smith said no to the movie. Now, if you know anything about Will Smith, which you and I do talk about once in a while because you know about movies, Will Smith is very careful with his roles lately. He kind of had a bit of a couple years there where he was kind of like, in his dark age, I guess you could say. He said no to this film. I suppose the reason for that is one thing I read was that maybe he was having scheduling conflicts with Suicide Squad, but because that movie had a bunch of reshoots recently, actually. But most people think he didn't reprise his role because the cheesiness of the script. And I got to be honest, the script does look cheesy. What are your impressions of the first couple trailers? Are you excited for the movie, or do you think it could end up being a bomb? Because Roland Emmerich, he doesn't really bat too well. You know what I mean?
Well, on the whole Will Smith thing, I heard it was just down to money and money only. They didn't pay him what he wanted, so he said, "I'm out."
He is that kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's that kind of guy.
He's got a big ego. Let's put it that way.
But it's just weird because, like, in 2016, 2015, whenever they shot this, I mean, Will Smith isn't exactly raking in the big bucks. He's had a few bombs lately, so I don't know really the kind of leverage that he had, but I guess he had enough for them to say, sorry, guy, we're not going to give you what you want, But anyway, as far as like the trailers, the initial hype for this movie, because I'm such a fan of the first film, I love that film to death.
It's a legitimate fun movie. I just want to say, nobody's going to sit here and say it's on the level of Citizen Kane, The Godfather.
Right.
Nobody's saying that. But it is a fun blockbuster movie. And it was really, dude, it came out the summer of 96, had the big promotional thing with ID4 and the toys, and they had the video game, which sucked. And then Star Fox 64 came out. And if you remember, Star Fox 64 blatantly ripped off this movie, dude.
I remember.
It's a legitimate ripoff. And it was a big thing in the summer of 96. But I'm sorry, continue.
I remember all the way down to the action figures. I had the Will Smith action figures from that movie. I had one of the aliens. And
not to mention, they also had a semi-viral campaign before viral campaigns were big, because if you remember, the teasers were all ID4, ID4, ID4.
Exactly.
Nobody really knew what was going on. And
as far as this movie goes, they actually had they have real nice viral marketing going on with the whole. If you go type into your browser warofninety6.com, you get a whole timeline of what's gone on since the first film, with a whole thing with Will Smith's character, Captain Stephen Hiller, dying.
Yeah, which he had to write in there because he wouldn't come back.
Exactly. You have the election of the current president in that movie, so it basically goes over like everything that's gone on since the initial alien invasion in the first film, which I think is awesome. Great marketing idea there. But I'm excited. I love the first two trailers. Jeff Goldblum getting in his cheesy one-liners,
and don't forget his dad
getting screen time. Yeah, Judd Hirsch, of course. Like, who could forget him? And I'm excited.
The most Jewish man in the whole movie.
Absolutely.
I'm not Jewish. Oh, nobody's perfect. Right now, we know that Vivica A. Fox is back. Like I said, she's still hot. And then now we have Jesse Usher playing the son of Will Smith's character. Right. I kind of was expecting this. We've been seeing that lately a lot with Creed, with Star Wars, where you'll have like the children of our heroes that we remember coming in. In this case, of course, like we talked about, it's because Will Smith didn't want to do it. I just don't see Jesse Usher having Will Smith's charisma. I do kind of see him taking the place of Will Smith. They're going to try to do that. I don't see him having that kind of charisma. Also, Stella Ward is playing the female president. Do you think that, because I have nothing against this, but they're using a woman president, and lately we've seen a lot of films do like female empowerment. You know, we've got Force Awakens, we've got Rogue One, which is about a female. We've also got Ghostbusters, which is going to be trash. I don't care if it's female or male. That movie just looks horrible. And you know, we've got now Stella Ward playing the female president. Is this kind of a move that they kind of, you think they purposely put in there to kind of match that?
I'm sure that was blatant on purpose. But I mean, to kind of go with your little Ghostbusters thing you just said, the one good thing that'll probably come out of this whole Ghostbusters reboot is the revival of the Ecto Cooler, which I'm very excited about. I cannot wait to start buying those up.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how.
Hey, when I was a kid, I had my mother buy them every week for me when she went to the grocery store. The Ecto Coolers with Slimer on them, you know, those are classics. It's gonna be all nostalgia driven, but you know, if that's the only good thing that comes out of it, I'll be happy.
I mean, if the Ecto Cooler's got pictures of Melissa McCarthy on it, bro, no thanks.
No, thank you. But you mentioned earlier, like, I didn't really answer your question earlier about do I think it'll bomb? No, because I think that the initial film, the first film, has enough equity built in with you know, the audience of today that it's gonna make money. Whether it'll fail creatively or, you know, critically is yet to be seen, which it probably will fail critically. I have a feeling about that because the first one failed critically. But whether it'll bomb in the box office, absolutely not. It's going to make a ton of money.
Yeah, and honestly, the critics, I mean, I thought the first movie was pretty well made. I mean, it's just a fun movie, like I said before. Now, like we talked about, you know, Will Smith's son is here. Now, also, very interesting, Bill Pullman, President Whitmore's daughter, is grown up now because, you know, obviously in the first film, one of the more sad moments of the film, which I genuinely thought was sad. Like I said, the first movie's a good movie. I will defend this fucking movie. I don't care. I'll defend Independence Day 1 forever. You know, the wife dies, and, you know, the mommy sleeping scene, which was very, very tragic.
Yes.
In this film, she's grown up. I don't think it's the same actress, is it? It can't be. It can't be.
No, it's not.
So she's a pilot. Do you think that she's gonna hook up with Will Smith's son, bro? I'm smelling that before I even see this thing.
Well, Liam Hemsworth is in this movie, and I think
he's also a main guy.
He's supposed to play like thinking her love interest, if I'm not mistaken. That's the vibe I'm getting from the trailers.
Okay, so it's probably gonna be one of those things where it's gonna be he's gonna be Poe Dameron, she's gonna be Ray, and Jesse Usher's gonna be Finn, bro. Maybe she'll put maybe she'll put Dylan in the friend zone, bro.
Well, hopefully he's not a jobber like Finn is, you know.
That's true. But who knows? Maybe he'll get a character arc. Now, Brent Spiner's reprising his role as Dr. Oaken, okay? How the hell did he survive the first movie? I thought the alien
yes, I mentioned that on the show as well, that I'm very curious to see what their excuse is for why he's there, because I thought he was dead, you know. And I think Draven or Adolph, one of them, might have said that I guess they were just like using his body, like he wasn't really dead, that they were just like using his body to communicate. But from when he was on the floor, like, he looked dead. So,
yeah, well, didn't they touch his neck and feel no pulse? Wasn't that part of the whole gimmick?
That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. That's why like I said on the show, I'm very curious to see how they BS their way out of that, you know?
It's gonna be a Roland Emmerich classic. William Fichtner's in this movie, the Alpha. I'm excited about that. He's playing a general. Now let's talk about the story, okay? Before we get out of here, this will be the last topic on Geekdom Movie Talk this week, and I want to get everybody's thoughts down below. Like I said, I really want to hear two things. Number one, do you like the first Independence Day movie? And if you don't, you're probably not even you shouldn't even watch this video. And if you haven't seen it, definitely see it. It is a fun movie to watch, but again, it is a period piece. It's a 90s movie. Everything about that movie screams 90s, from the woman on the roof who was a hippie, pothead, the Jewish guy. Just everything is just so 90s. It's ridiculous. So if you're not really a kid of the 90s, then you don't remember that, it's not going to hit you the same way. But it's still a fun movie. But I want to ask you about the story. So the aliens are coming back. Apparently, 20 years afterward, the evil aliens are returning for revenge. I don't know why they waited so long. What we find...
Okay, so I think the idea, and I said this on the show, I think the idea was that they're just getting now the distress signal from the aliens from the first movie.
It's like that Futurama episode. It's like the Futurama episode with the lawyer. Remember? But now remember, Mark, They stole that idea from the Super Friends original, the Super Friends movie plot. Because if you remember, when I wrote the outline for the Super Friends movie that's never going to happen, what happened was the aliens were pissed off because Super Friends, the radio show, was off the air, and they're coming now to invade. So
That's right.
I stole it from Futurama, and they stole it from me.
Now, if you really think about it, it could be kind of, depending on where they are in space, it could theoretically take 20 years for reinforcements to arrive. But it seems like from these trailers, and Draymond pointed this out too, it seems like these aliens have better technology than their brethren, even though it's the same species, apparently.
Well, they have to. And now I was going to get into that as well, that what apparently has happened, which actually makes a lot of sense, is that the U.S. military and actually the whole world's military has taken some of that alien technology and adapted it into new flight, pilots or new aircraft is what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
Invested into new aircraft, so now we have more technology. Now, much like with Call of Duty, the new one, which I'm very disappointed about because Call of Duty has totally just become like, I don't know, it's been going in the toilet for a few years now, in my opinion. The new Call of Duty trailer, the game is now sci-fi. I feel like this movie is going to be even more sci-fi than the first one because I feel like the first one was like sci-fi with like drama. There was a love story. This one seems more sci-fi because now it's no longer about us using our F-15s to combat this technologically advanced alien race. Now it is, we have shit that they had, but now they've got shit better than us. So I guess the ante just gets raised. I don't know.
That's what it seems like too. And if you go on the War of '96, you actually get to see like the stages that the country and the world took to kind of upgrade their defenses, their technology based on the alien technology from the first movie. So if you haven't checked out that site, definitely check it out. You're gonna get nostalgic about the first movie if you love the first movie, and you're gonna get the little background info to set the stage.
I'm definitely gonna check this movie out for sure. I'm just wondering, what I wonder is if the aliens show up now. I wonder if this is gonna be it for them, or if they're gonna do a third movie where the humans maybe go to the alien planet. Because I feel like if they beat them again in this movie, who's to say they don't have more fleets out there in deep space? I mean, who's to say? The thing about the first movie that I felt made it strong was that it was very realistic and grounded. That's the thing. Even though it's a wacky Roland Emmerich movie that they're all wacky, I thought that the actual invasions kind of made sense in a way. It was more realistic in a sense. It's not very realistic, but it's more grounded. Now we've got their technology, so it's much more of a spacey kind of thing. I don't know.
Really, the only thing I'm worried about is that if they CGI it all to hell and it looks fake and it kind of takes you out, that's kind of what I'm worried about. Because the first one we didn't really have that. Everything looked real, everything looked crisp, the special effects, and you were able to buy into everything like you just mentioned because it kind of grounded. If they go over top with the CGI, that could be like the death knell for it, kind of just take you out.
Ego 1, Fox 2. He's like, does anyone have any missiles left?
Bro, the wackiness of the president flying an aircraft. Bro.
And he's an old man in this movie, bro.
Exactly.
He's an old man. Yeah.
That's such a great movie.
He's probably gonna be like the old. He's gonna be the Lor Santeca of the movie, bro. He's gonna be the.
Yeah, just from the trailers, I have a feeling that and he's probably gonna die here too.
I hope not, because Bill Pullman is a legend. But hey, whatever. So, anyways, yeah, let us know again if you're gonna check out Independence Day Resurgence. Again, I never thought I would see this movie. I really didn't, but it's actually happening 20 years later. I hope it's a good one. I'm going to definitely check it out. And, of course, check out Force Perspective. I'll leave a link down below. I'll leave a link to both the Force Perspective page on Geekdom101.com as well as the Force Perspective specific summer movie preview show, so everybody can download that podcast. How long was it?
You can also link the Independence Day riff track too while you're at it.
All right, send me the link to it because I don't want to have to dig through the archives. Right. It takes a while. And what I was going to say too was if you have a long commute, how long is the show? Is the preview show?
Summer preview is about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, so if you have a long commute or if you're bored at work, download that. Mark, Adolfo, and Brandon Draven preview all the movies coming out this summer. And there's a lot of movies, a lot of comic book movies. We're going to be talking about on the Movie Talk too. So, all right, well, thanks for being here, bro.
I appreciate it.
All right, and thanks everybody for checking out the video. I'll catch you down the road.